Hi, this is Jaya. In this video, we shall see the summary of Pygmalion, a play by George Bernard Shaw. Shaw named the play after a Greek mythological figure, and the play begins with a group of people who are taking shelter from the rain. Among them are the Ensford Hills superficial social climbers eking out a living in genteel poverty. First seen are Mrs. Ensford Hill and her daughter Clara. Clara's brother Freddie enters, having earlier been dispatched to secure them a cab, but being rather timid and faint hearted, he has failed to do so. As he goes off once again to find a cab, he bumps into a flower girl, Eliza Doolittle. Her flowers drop into the mud of Covent Garden, the flowers she needs to survive in her poverty stricken world. They are soon joined by a gentleman, Colonel Pickering. While Eliza tries to sell flowers to the colonel, a bystander informs her that another man is writing down everything she says. That man is Henry Higgins, a linguist and phonetician. Eliza worries that Higgins is a police officer and will not calm down until Higgins introduces himself. It soon becomes apparent that he and Colonel Pickering have a shared interest in phonetics and an intense mutual admiration. Indeed, Pickering has come from India specifically to meet Higgins, and Higgins was planning to go to India to meet Pickering. Higgins tells Pickering that he could pass off the flower girl as a duchess merely by teaching her to speak properly. These words of bravado spark an interest in Eliza, who would love to make changes in her life and become more mannerly, even though to her it only means working in a flower shop. Freddie returns after finding a taxi, only to find that his mother and sister have gone and left him with the cab. The streetwise Eliza takes a cab from him using the money that Higgins tossed to her, leaving him on his own soul. As Higgins demonstrates his phonetics to Pickering, the housekeeper Mrs. Pierce tells him that a young girl wants to see him. Eliza has shown up because she wants to talk like a lady in a flower shop. She tells Higgins that she will pay for lessons. He shows no interest, but she reminds him of his boast that previous day. He had claimed that he could pass her off as a duchess. Pickering makes a bet with him on his claim and says that he will pay for the lessons if Higgins succeeds. She is sent off to have a bath. Mrs. Pierce tells Higgins that he must stop swearing and improve his table manners, but he is at a loss to understand why she should find fault with him. Alfred Doolittle, Eliza's father, appears with the sole purpose of getting money out of Higgins, having no paternal interest in his daughter's welfare. He requests and receives £5 in compensation for the loss of Eliza, although Higgins, much amused by Doolittle's approach to morality, is tempted to pay 10. Doolittle refuses. He sees himself as a member of the undeserving poor and means to go on being undeserving. With his intelligent mind untamed by education, he has an eccentric view of life. He is also aggressive, and Eliza, on her return, sticks her tongue out at him. He goes to hit her, but Pickering prevents him. Higgins telling Pickering that they really have a difficult job on their hands. Higgins bursts in and tells his mother that he has picked up a common flower girl whom he has been teaching. Mrs. Higgins is unimpressed with her son's attempt to win her approval because it is her at home day and she is entertaining visitors. The visitors are the Ensford Hills. When they arrive, Higgins is rude to them. Eliza enters and soon falls into talking about the weather and the family. While she is now able to speak in beautifully modulated tones, the substance of what she says remains unchanged from the gutter. She confines her suspicions that her aunt was killed by relatives, mentions that gin had been mother's milk to her aunt, and that Eliza's own father was always more agreeable when he had a drop in. Higgins passes off her remarks as the new small talk, and Freddie is enraptured by Eliza. When she is leaving, he asks her if she is going to walk across the park, to which she replies, "Walk? Not bloody likely." After Eliza and the Ensfield Hills leave, Higgins asks for his mother's opinion. She says the girl is not presentable and she is concerned about what will happen to her. But neither Higgins nor Pickering understands her concerns about Eliza's future. They leave feeling confident and excited about how Eliza will get on. This leaves Mrs. Higgins feeling exasperated and exclaiming, "Men, men, men." Higgins, Pickering, and Eliza have returned from a ball. A tired Eliza sits unnoticed, brooding and silent, while Pickering congratulates Higgins on winning the bet. Higgins scoffs and declares the evening a silly tomfoolery, thanking God it's over and saying that he had been sick of the whole thing for the last 2 months. Still barely acknowledging Eliza beyond asking her to leave a note for Mrs. Pierce regarding coffee, the two retire to bed. Higgins soon returns to the room looking for his slippers, and Eliza throws them at him. Higgins is taken aback and is at first completely unable to understand Eliza's preoccupation, which, aside from being ignored after her triumph, is the question of what she is to do now. When Higgins finally understands, he makes light of it, saying she could get married, but Eliza interprets this as selling herself like a prostitute. Finally, she returns her jewelry to Higgins, including the ring he had given her, which he throws into the fireplace with a violence that scares Eliza. Furious with himself for losing his temper, he damns Mrs. Pierce with coffee. Eliza, and finally himself for lavishing his knowledge and his regard and intimacy on a heartless gutter snip, and retires in a great dudgeon. Eliza roots around in the fireplace and retrieves the ring. The next morning, Higgins and Pickering, perturbed by discovering that Eliza has walked out on them, call on Mrs. Higgins to phone the police. Higgins is particularly distracted since Eliza had assumed the responsibility of maintaining his diary and keeping track of his possessions, which causes Mrs. Higgins to decry their calling the police as though Eliza were a lost umbrella. Doolittle is announced. He emerges dressed in splendid wedding attire and is furious with Higgins, who, after the previous encounter, had been so taken with Doolittle's unorthodox ethics that he had recommended him as the most original moralist in England to a rich American, a founder of moral reform societies. The American had subsequently left Doolittle a pension worth £3,000 a year, as a consequence of which Doolittle feels intimidated into joining the middle class and marrying his missus. Mrs. Higgins observes that this at least settles the problem of who shall provide for Eliza, to which Higgins objects. After all, he paid Doolittle £5 for her. Mrs. Higgins informs her son that Eliza is upstairs and explains the circumstances of her arrival, alluding to how marginalized and overlooked Eliza had felt the previous night. Higgins is unable to appreciate this and sulks when told that he must behave if Eliza is to join them. Doolittle is asked to wait outside. Eliza enters at ease and self-possessed. Higgins blusters, but Eliza is unshaken and speaks exclusively to Pickering. Throwing Higgins' previous insults back at him, Eliza remarks that it was only by Pickering's example that she learned to be a lady, which renders Higgins speechless. Eliza goes on to say that she has completely left behind the flower girl she was, and that she couldn't utter any of her old sounds if she tried, at which point Doolittle emerges from the balcony, causing Eliza to emit her old sounds. Higgins is jubilant, jumping up and crowing over what he calls his victory. Doolittle explains his situation and asks if Eliza will come with him to his wedding. Pickering and Mrs. Higgins also agree to go, and they leave, with Doolittle and Eliza to follow. There is another confrontation between Higgins and Eliza. Higgins asks if Eliza is satisfied with the revenge she has brought thus far and if she will now come back, but she refuses. Higgins defends himself from Eliza's earlier accusation by arguing that he treats everyone the same, so she shouldn't feel singled out. Eliza replies that she just wants a little kindness, and that since he will never stoop to show her this, she will not come back but will marry Freddie. Higgins scolds her for such low ambitions. He has made her a consort for a king. When she threatens to teach phonetics and offer herself as an assistant to Higgins' academic rival, Nepomuk, Higgins again loses his temper and vows to wring her neck if she does so. Eliza realizes that this last threat strikes Higgins at the very core and that it gives him her power over him. Higgins is delighted to see a spark of fight in Eliza rather than her erstwhile fretting and worrying. He remarks, I like you like this, and calls her a pillar of strength. Mrs. Higgins returns and she and Eliza depart for the wedding. As they leave, Higgins incorrigibly gives Eliza a list of errands to run as though their recent conversation had not taken place. Eliza disdainfully tells him that to do the errands himself. Mrs. Higgins says that she will get the items, but Higgins cheerfully tells her that Eliza will do it after all. Higgins laughs to himself at the idea of Eliza marrying Freddie as the play ends. If you have anything more to add on to what I've said, please write it in the comment box, like the video, share it with your friends, and if you have not subscribed my channel, please subscribe and support. Thank you.